Hello, everyone. Thank you for those of you who are on the call. I am super excited that you chose to join us today. Um, of course, this call starts at 3 o'clock Eastern, which is where I am, 12 p.m. Pacific. So we're going to give it 5 more minutes for everyone else to join, but I will be starting promptly. So thanks so much. Just, sit tight and we're going to be getting started pretty soon. Um, in the meantime, while you wait, I just want to let you know where you're viewing the webinar, you can always just leave me comments. Let me know maybe if you're having issues seeing the screen, if you have any questions over the course of the webinar, you can always ask. And you can even ask questions now. I know we haven't gotten started, but maybe there's something specific that you're dying to know by the end of the webinar. You can always just ask it right now, actually. As you're asking the questions, I'll find out immediately. I'll get alerts immediately, and I will just send you a response, or I will answer it during the call. So, in the event that we get a lot of questions, the last few webinars I did, we got a whole lot of questions, and I wasn't able to answer every single one on the call, but I will follow up afterwards with an answer. So that said, it looks like we still have 4 more minutes. Let's just give it 4 more minutes and then we'll be getting started with the webinar. And also in the meantime, I'm just curious who we have on the call. So if you don't mind just, leaving your name, your city and state, and also what kind of wedding professional you are in the chat box, whether you're a photographer, a planner, a florist, a DJ, I'd like to know. It's just interesting to know so that I can tailor this to who I have on the call. All right, I'm starting to get them back. It's exciting. I look forward to speaking with you all more about this. Alrighty, so we have Emily on the line. Thank you for joining us. Hi there. I'm excited to listen to your webinar. I'm glad you're excited about listening. I can see that you're a floral decorator and a wedding planner all the way from Sweden. Wow, that's awesome to have someone, on the class for so far away. I wonder what time it is in Sweden. I have no idea, but thank you so much for joining, and I'm glad you're able to hear about the class. I see we also have Mark calling in from Denver, we have Amy from New York, and we have a whole host of other people as well. But that being said, it is time for us to get started. So thanks everyone for calling in, for leaving me messages, etc. It's time for us to get started. So like I mentioned in all the promos, my goal here is to keep this brief to about 30 minutes. We may run over a little bit if we get a lot of questions, but my goal is 30 minutes. So I'm starting right now. I have to tell you, I am super excited about this class. Super, super excited about this class because I went through a rough patch where I was just stuck for quite a while, and I learned a bunch of things, and now I'm just excited about sharing it with everyone else to help them to get past being stuck. It's not enough just to know how to do your craft. You really have to know how to market it so that you can get clients and really build a business. Building a business is more than just knowing how to do your craft. So we're going to dive right into that today. So a little bit about me. I know that if you're following us on Virtual Wedding Pro, again, I focus more on you and your needs. So I don't show that many pictures of myself and what I do. But my name is Faye Ogunfemi. I am a certified event planner. I completed the certificate in meeting, conference, and event management at New York University a few years ago. Well, more than a few years ago. And I learned a lot there. I really, really did. But that said, there were a whole lot of gaps, the types of gaps we're talking about today, specifically, how do you start a business? How do you market a business? How do you communicate with clients, etc. And that's really what inspired this class. So yeah, I'm a wedding planner and a designer at Statuesque Events LLC. It's actually my company, but I plan and design weddings. I used to do so in the New York area, but currently we are in Washington, D.C. And so that transition is where I had to learn a whole lot about marketing, and it's really paid off. I'm also the founder of Virtual Wedding Pro, which is, I'm sure, where all of you found out about this, either on Instagram or Facebook or on maybe on our email list. And you may have seen me or any of the weddings that we've planned in the Not DC publication, Munaluchi Bride magazine. That's a magazine for people of color. Wedding Wire online journal, Wedding Chicks, which is one of the biggest blogs, and a lot of other places. So we have done pretty good work. I really pride myself on my work. But this is just a little bit about me, so you understand where I'm coming from before we jump into logistics. So again, why am I even doing this training? Like, why would anybody do a free training, and specifically on how to market your wedding business? How to market a wedding business specifically, not just how to market in general or how to plan weddings, but how to market your wedding business. I'm glad you asked. Well, I mean, when I was starting out, I really had to learn a whole lot on my own. I started my business when I was only 23 years old, actually. Just after my birthday, I decided to enroll and learn a lot of new things. And at the time, I'd learned so much about how to plan events. I'd really been doing it my whole life. My family has a lot of events, and through college and everything, I did a whole lot of event planning. I'd always found myself getting involved with nonprofits and helping to plan galas and all sorts of things. However, I got stuck. I started my business. I said, hey, I have a business, put it out there on Facebook, and got crickets. So I really had to figure out a lot on my own, So this is a resource to help you figure out how to sell, because there are some unique traits to brides, versus just selling to anyone else. If you sell clothes, for instance, you can sell clothes over and over and over and over again to the same client base, but generally speaking, with weddings, you're only making one sale. Generally speaking, people only need one photographer for one wedding, and that's it. So you don't really have any repeat business and things like that, unless someone has a really big birthday party for a child 5 years later or something, So there's a lot of unique things about this. Brides, generally speaking, have never gone through this process before. So if you're using a lot of jargon, they don't understand it because they've never done this before. There are a lot of unique things about how to market to brides. So we're going to jump into that today. So, first of all, let's talk about what marketing is in the first place, right? Because I've learned that I had the wrong understanding of what marketing is, and a lot of other people do. So marketing, first of all, is education. You have to educate a client on what you do. And really, you also have to educate them about why what you do is important. You can't just limit it to, I'm a photographer. But why is that important? Like, why is that important on a wedding day? You know, you also have to educate them on why the packages you offer are important. On the surface, a lot of brides won't understand why you would offer an 8-hour wedding package or a 10-hour wedding package when they're having a 1-hour ceremony and a 4-hour reception. But you have to kind of lay that out and make it clear to them, educate them upfront to understand what it is that they're purchasing. Reminders. Remind a client that you're there. Hello. So this is actually the main purpose of social media, which a lot of people miss. A lot of people think that social media is there, you know, so that you can tell people what you do. And, you know, you kind of have this picture in your head that people are going to wake up in the morning, go to your page and remind themselves about things that you posted 2 weeks ago. But that's not the case. Social media is there to help you remind people about what you're doing. So you need to constantly send out reminders. Marketing is also leading. You know, you have to explain the value clearly. You have to lead them to the end result that you are the right choice for them. So you have to use testimonials, use photos, use everything to lead, do the leading and say, this is what, you know, why you need me, without saying this is why you need me in those words, but lead them to that conclusion. You can't just say, I'm a photographer, hire me. That doesn't really work. You have to really lay things out correctly, and that is marketing. And also you have to give people specific instructions, right? Give them a call to action. If you just say, I'm a photographer, even if someone's a bride and you just say, I'm a photographer, it's like, what's next? Do I send you an email? Do I have to fill out a form? Do I call you? Do we sit down and meet? Like what is next? You have to be able to articulate all these things clearly. And this is why marketing, to many people, is arduous and it's so much work. But you know, in my class that I'm now teaching on Udemy, you're the first to find out, by the way. I have a new class on Udemy. I'm so excited to be an instructor there. But you know, that's basically what we help you lay out, how to navigate through all of these things and cover all these bases in your marketing. Because generally, if you don't have a lot of clients, that's what's missing, your marketing plan. So I talked about how, you know, a bride is a very unique client, but something else that you have to really understand in this day and age is that there's even a really big difference between today's bride versus brides of 10, 15, 20 years ago, right? So you have to also make sure that you're using today's methods to reach them and not a million years ago's methods. So today's bride, I mean, I have a picture here on the left. Number one, she is highly visual, highly visual. If you can't show her what you've done in the past, generally speaking, they're not going to buy into you. And I know I'm using the term bride a lot because brides generally do, in most cases, drive the purchasing decisions and they're the ones who drive the event. But a lot of times grooms are the same way, you know, because the grooms don't want to spend money on someone when they don't know what they're going to get, which is, you know, arguably a really good argument, right? I mean, in today's day and age, you have to understand why many of us shop online. We do all sorts of things. So if you can't show me what you do, it's difficult for me to buy it when there are other people who can. So highly visual. Another one is she uses Instagram and Pinterest to capture visions of what she wants because, you know, everything from what kind of hair she wants, what kind of bouquet she wants, everything. Most brides, when they call me and inquire about more about my services, they tell me, oh yeah, I have a whole bunch of screenshots from Instagram of things that I've liked, and I want to see if you can help me to pull them all together, maybe using the color of this one, the vase from this one, and this from that, and pull together something unique for me. This is what I want. So again, they may not come to you and say, oh, I need a giant hydrangea bouquet, or I need a hydrangea and peony centerpiece, because they're not, you have to understand this is their first time. They're not, most of the times they don't even know the names of the flowers that they want. You know, I know we have a florist on the call. When you just send a list that just has names of flowers, that's not, you're not tapping into the visuals that she needs. So that's something else you have to understand. The modern day bride is extremely, extremely busy. So they don't have time to have a meeting with every single potential vendor that they find. Many times I'm working with clients and I may recommend them, oh, these are 4 photographers I'd like to recommend. And then they come to me and say, okay, these are 5 photographers I've been following on social media that I like. And so now we have a list of 9 photographers. And, 2 of my brides right now are in the medical field. One is in med school in another country. One of them is a nurse, and she works really long hours. So generally speaking, making time to talk for 30 minutes or an hour to every single photography option, not to talk of every other option of every other vendor that we're going to get, is usually not realistic. So if the only way you think you can communicate value, at all is through a conference call, then that generally is not going to be a good approach for the modern day bride. You need to learn how to, use technology, because if you don't, you're going to lose her. And also, she grew up in a microwave world. She wants answers fast. These days you can get a quote for auto insurance in a few minutes. They don't want to wait weeks for you to come up with a quote for photography, or weeks just for you to reply to your email. You need to answer quickly. I'm not saying you have to always answer within 20 minutes, but within a day, because after that, you're not feeding into what she wants and what she's used to. And I mean, really, this is all of us as purchasers. If you want to buy clothes and you have a quick question about the length of the skirt or something like that, and you email the manufacturer and they don't email you back until a week later, chances are you're not going to buy that skirt. So you need to also understand that mindset of the buyers of nowadays. So number one mistake that most people make, because, as I mentioned, we're going to go through 3 today. One is that you don't have virtual real estate. That said, that generally means a few different things. One, you don't have a website, which, I have to be really honest with you. If you don't have a website, you need to get one. Like that's not even a really good excuse these days, because there are a lot of tools that you can use to make a website very quickly. If you can dedicate a weekend to it, you can have a website done. And that's just the honest truth of it. And I go through a lot of specifics on how you can get it done quickly and efficiently while still having a very professional website in the class that I teach on Udemy. But it's really up to you to choose to start making decisions right now. Number 2, you have a website and it has no content. So here on the top, you can see the 404 not found error. There are a lot of people who have parked websites. I mean, you have a URL, you may have even had it for years, and you think it makes you look professional to put that in your email signature on your proposals. But when people click it, it doesn't go anywhere, which makes you actually look even less professional. Think about it, so you need to get a handle over your virtual real estate. Your social media pages are empty. I also want to caveat this with maybe your social media pages have a whole bunch of selfies on them, or happy birthday messages to other people, pictures from things you do at church, and all these other things that are absolutely not related to what you do as a business owner. That essentially may as well be an empty page because it makes you not look serious. So this is the one really big common mistake. Your virtual real estate is basically empty. You don't have a photo gallery or a video gallery showing what you do. Now, to build virtual real estate, number 1, build a website. And I have in quotes now, because this should not be something that takes you a year to do. I've seen too many people who take forever to get their website together. And it's just, there are too many tools out there, to help you to get it done fast and affordably for you to not have one. 2 of them are here, WordPress and Wix. There are lots of other ones out there. Again, in the Udemy class, I go through a very detailed walkthrough about Wix, because I know a lot of people are afraid of WordPress, and it is very complicated. My website is built on WordPress, and it can get a little complicated at times. But Wix is very straightforward, and I go through a whole demo of exactly what you should do in the Udemy class. And basically, if you follow that, you can have a website done in a weekend. There's really no other reason. The other thing is that you need to have access to your website. Don't just ask someone to build you a website that you can't make any changes to ever. You need to have an active blog. You may need to update pricing, add things to a page, remove things. You need to be flexible. So yeah, build a website now, or have a website built where you can have access to the back end. If you use WordPress or Wix, you can have a website done in about $100. It's, and that's assuming you don't want ads on your website. If you're okay with having ads on your website from Wix, you can have a website done for free. So yeah, there you have it. You can get it done ASAP. Also, setting up SEO to make your site searchable. You know, again, this is a very short, high-level class, but SEO basically is what allows Bing, Google, or any other search engine to recognize what your site is talking about. So that's what gives your website meaning, and that's what helps them to rank relevance. One thing that helps with relevance is keeping your website updated. So if you have one stagnant website and you don't change anything for 3 years, that kills your rankings. If you're constantly blogging, constantly changing content, that helps it go up. If you have keywords that are not too generic, that are more specific, that helps you go up for that category. So for instance, my website is in the top category for African or Nigerian wedding planners in the DC area, which there actually are a lot of people in the area in that category trying to get married. So because I was able to narrow it to that specific demographic, then now I am in the top category for that and people are finding me, versus me using wedding planner, even wedding planner in DC, and being all the way on page 4 or 5 where no one will find me. So that's just a little tip. You want to make sure that you have your virtual real estate together. So common mistake number 2, you don't build trust. You know, I mean, this picture on the right is the picture of Jennifer Lopez in The Wedding Planner, which I know everyone loves that movie. It's awesome. But you could tell the bride trusted Jennifer Lopez with pretty much with her life, you know, and of course there were some other things going on in the background, but the trust was there. And the truth is that you don't even have to meet a person in person in order to build trust. I have some clients where from different reasons we didn't meet until way later. I have a client who was in the military and she hired me over video chat while she was deployed. And I didn't meet her until the week of her wedding, actually. I met her fiance before then, but you know, because of being deployed and everything, I didn't meet her until a week before the wedding. But she was able to trust me, trust my work before she contacted me, and then trust me after speaking in order to book me. So when it comes to building trust, first of all, the reason that you don't have it is that brides can't envision how you're going to bring your wedding to life. And again, this comes back to being visual. If you don't have if you're a photographer and all your photos are of headshots, it's very difficult to envision how you're going to capture somebody's wedding. If you are a florist and, you know, all of your pictures are of empty vases, everything is just, oh, this is just what I have in stock, that's not really a final picture of what someone can see at their wedding, right? So you have to really look at all your real estate, your virtual real estate, and see if you're really sending images of what people can envision as a final product at their wedding. If you're not, then that's why they can't trust you. The other thing is that you're not available. Again, I mean, many people tell me, I always reply to them within a day, and they always tell me, wow, you are so responsive. And that is a big part of the reason that people book me, because they know that after they book me and I'm working on their wedding, if there's an emergency, if they want to make a last minute change and, you know, they need to make a decision within a day or two, that I will be there to coach them through it. And it's not going to take me weeks to respond to them. That if you can't be responsive, people can't trust you. That's just the way it goes. So you have to give visuals and experiences for people to be able to build trust. That's the only way to do it. So one is, first of all, you have to capture content. This could be a whole class on its own, but one thing I've learned, and one thing that helped me to really shine among a lot of the other event planners and designers in my area, even though I'm newer to the area, is that I always capture my own content. I do not rely on photographers, and I do not rely on videographers, because generally speaking, you're not going to get the photos and videos until weeks later when they're done editing them and they're pristine. You may not get raw copies because the photographer owns, you know, the photos. They may not give you everything. And when it gets down to it, the photographer is not there to photograph your work specifically. They're there to photograph the entire wedding. So they may have 1 or 2 nice pictures of decor, but then that's all you're going to have. Versus when I am the one doing it, I take pictures behind the scenes, and this is for the florists on the call. I take photos behind the scenes when I'm prepping the flowers. You know, oh, this weekend is all about peach and gold, and I take a little pictures to warm people's, you know, senses a little bit. The day of the wedding, take a picture before we even set up, take a picture after we're done setting up, take a picture of a close-up of one type of centerpiece, close-up on another centerpiece, close-up on the bride with the bouquet, take all different photos that I can use so that I can tell a story that builds trust, that someone can trust me with a wedding. So you need to capture your own content. It's your responsibility. It is not a photographer or videographer's responsibility. And this is an issue I've seen a lot with a lot of people contact me and they're like, I want to work with you. You know, I really like your stuff. I want to work with you, but they don't have anything to give me to show clients. At the end of the day, the clients have to see it. They have to believe it. If they don't believe it, I can't force them to hire you. I can only give a recommendation. And things are readily available on Instagram and websites. So they will find an alternative even if I don't find one for them. And again, a cell phone is enough. You don't need to hire your own camera crew and all this if you don't have the money. A cell phone is enough, but just capture lots of angles that can be shared later. And be available. I mean, you know, reply quickly within the same day if possible. Not even if possible, reply within the same day. Discipline yourself to reply within the same day and prove that you can be trusted with the most important day of her life. Like, the trust is so crucial here. If you take forever to do everything, it's difficult to trust you. And common mistake number 3, to wrap it up, is that you don't find any local brides on social media. I mean, yeah, I'm focusing on local brides. And you know, the interesting thing about marketing is everyone thinks that, oh, if I say I'm an international photographer, I'll get more business. But the truth is that a lot of times that can actually go against you, because then no one wants to fly you and then pay you, you know, fly you out, pay for a hotel, and then pay you. Very few people want to do that. Very, very few. And when they want to do that, that's usually after you have a really huge established name and, you know, you're the one they want to work with. So you need to, you know, you definitely want to make sure that you're finding local brides. That's the best way to build your business. And even after you're huge and established, most of your clientele will be local. That's just, you know, the way most people build their bread and butter. So social media is the modern day magazine. You know, these days brides don't say, oh, I'm getting married, let me go find vendors in XX magazine. No one does that. Those magazines still exist, yes, and people like to look at them, but it's more for inspiration. It's usually not to shop. Social media is where people shop, as well as search engines. You know, so a lot of brides who find vendors on social media actually find it on Instagram. That is most people. Of course, many people also find vendors on Facebook as well as Twitter. But generally speaking, I mean, Instagram just seems to be right now where people find vendors. And so you may not have an active page. Last time you posted may have been last June, which is why you're not finding anybody on social media. You know, if you haven't posted since last June, and you know, even if someone stumbles upon your page, it's questionable if you're even still in business. So that doesn't look good, and you don't set yourself up to be found. So these are the you know, the big mistake you may be making here. So this is something I see a lot, particularly with photographers. This is just an example. You post a picture and it's an awesome picture, and then you type hashtag VSO cam, VSO black and white photographer, outdoor photography, weddings, wedding photographer, now booking, best photographer, affordable photographer. Now, first of all, the only people who would be, you know, on social media looking at hashtag VSO cam are other photographers who are curious about who's using the same type of equipment that they are. So if you're using those sorts of hashtags, what you're going to attract is other photographers, not clients, because they're just looking at your work and stuff like that. So I'm not saying don't use that, but that's not going to get you money. It's just going to get you other photographers who will admire your work. Hashtag weddings is way too vague. That is the entire world. You're not going to find people who are looking for you specifically. Now booking, again, affordable photographer, all of these are very, very vague. And these tend to be what I see most people using, which is not going to get you much. Now, on the other hand, these are much more effective. Hashtag DC photographer, DC wedding, DC Maryland Maryland wedding, Virginia photographer, even Nigerian wedding, Nigerian photographer. Now using these will definitely get you business, particularly if you're using these on some awesome shots. Because when you use these on awesome shots, what happens on Instagram, at least, is that at the top 9 like most standout images get featured all the way on the top. So if someone clicks hashtag DC wedding, and the type of person who would click that would be a bride who's planning on getting married in DC and who may be looking for venues and vendors, and they see you at the top, or even if you're not at the top, if your picture stands out and they click on it, chances are they'll follow you and they'll look into your work. Now, DC photographer is even better, because a bride who is looking for a photographer will look by that hashtag. Other wedding planners even use this. DC photographer, DC florist, whatever. So I know right now we have a florist from Sydney. Hashtag Sydney florist is going to be your best friend. Sydney florist, Sydney decorator, Sydney weddings, something like that, things along those lines. And I even challenge you now to go on Instagram and search by those hashtags and see what you see. And you'll see all your competitors on there. And that's definitely one way to get your word out. So now, reminders. Now, again, I know I gave an example earlier about shopping for clothes online. You also have to observe yourself as a buyer. That's actually how I've learned a lot of what I'm teaching now. I've observed my habits as a buyer. So where do you shop often? And how often do you hear from them? Like, how often do you get emails from them? I used to shop so much at Express, especially when I lived in New York and I wasn't far from one. I used to get emails from them every week. Think about that. How often you get reminders from the people that you shop from often, how often you hear from them, and how much do you think those reminders affect your willingness to purchase from them? Think about it. This is just something I want you to think about as we close. Now, that said, I'm sure you're really excited. I'm excited even just teaching it. But I want to know, I'm sure you're excited, but are you overwhelmed? I know I grazed over a whole lot of information, and there's way more even above this that can be done. But you may be overwhelmed and not really sure exactly how to step through the whole process. You don't have to worry, because I actually have a whole guide on Udemy. You may have heard that I was offering 50% off for a while online on Instagram. And hold that thought, because I actually have a better discount available for all of you who are on the call. But it's called Marketing Your Wedding Business. Again, I just launched it. I literally just launched it hours ago. And this webinar is my way of introducing it to the world, right? And letting everyone know that this is going on. It's, as you can see here, there are 11 lectures. The whole thing is 3 hours. And you can see how much we just got through in about 20 minutes of content, besides my intro and everything. 20 minutes, I got through all that. You can only imagine how much I have in 3 hours. But even outside of the 3 hours, there are principal checklists, there are homework assignments, and much more resources on top of that, but on top of the videos as well that's available there. If you're not familiar with Udemy, it's an online academy. Basically, they vet instructors that can teach all kinds of different content, and I'm really excited that we were accepted. I was accepted as a marketing instructor on Udemy. They went through, they approved everything, and now we're up and running. So the syllabus in a nutshell is: 1, we focus on getting in the right mindset and time management for busy professionals. Frankly put, most of us are, especially when we first start our business, are balancing work, meaning a day job, possibly family, with running a business. You need to, really, time management is of the essence. And I talk about a lot of the things that I put in place, which allowed me to balance. I was working in New York at a consulting firm, which is extremely time demanding when I started my business. So, I mean, that's what I go through there to help you understand exactly what I did and how you can get through that. So module 2, we focus on marketing fundamentals, right? How do you specifically find your unique voice, and how do you specifically find your target market? Number 3, we talk about making the sale, right? So that's all about your sales and communication funnels. So how do you email people, and how do you make proposals, and how do you communicate your unique value in a way that helps them to see that you're the one for them? And I mean, this is really key. I've sent some proposals out, and I've had brides say, oh, I can't afford this. Maybe they, sometimes people do come up with they don't budget correctly, and they may want to have a florist for like $500 or something like that. That's not possible for maybe a 300 guest count. And they say, I can't afford this, but this whole process was amazing, and I'm going to recommend you to all my friends. I didn't really budget. I'm just going to DIY it, but I'm going to recommend you to my friends because your process was that amazing. And I really enjoyed going through the process of seeing what I could do with different cost points and this and that. So, I mean, even when you're not making a sale, making that impact matters, because people do, when they like you and when they understand what you're communicating, they will spread the word. So module 4, we talk through tools of success. Basically, how do you create a website? Like I mentioned, I'm already going through the whole demo of how to use Wix in the class. how do you email people? How do you use social media the right way to communicate value? And specifically, I go through demos both on Instagram of how I Instagram, and I also go through a demo of Facebook ads, which you can use to target people in your local area. And the thing about Facebook ads is that it is extremely effective, but you absolutely 100% have to use it the right way. Many people use it the wrong way and say that it's not worth it, but you have to use it the right way. And we talk about the right way in this class. And then we wrap up. I talk about next steps. I give you a whole checklist of stuff that you have to do, and that is the whole syllabus of what you get. Now, it's over 3 hours of modules, which includes on-demand videos, the homework assignments that hold you accountable at each step, and you also get specific tools that help you build a winning brand. As you can see, I use a lot of really creative visuals on my Instagram besides photos of events and things like that, and I teach you actually exactly how to do that in this course, as well as a whole bunch of other different things. And I also show you demos of how to use those different tools as well. So the logistics, this is a very flexible on-demand syllabus, right? You can do everything in a day if you like. Well, I wouldn't recommend doing it in a day because I really want you to do the homework, but you can do it on your time. If you don't get home from work till 11 p.m., you can do it then. You don't have to work on anybody's schedule. You also have lifetime access to the course. You can rewatch it as many times as you want over the next however many years. You can replay the modules, you can access the homework and everything at any time. There's also a messaging feature where you can message me and ask me questions and I will get back to you. So that is extreme value that you get, all this on an online course. And there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, which Udemy has on all of their courses. But there's a little bit more. So just for being on the webinar and for staying this long, I want to offer you this course for $19. Now, I know that's crazy. That's 90% off. But Udemy overall is offering a discount, a promo before February. And I figured that would be a good time for me to have this webinar, show you exactly what I'm teaching and offer it to you. So thank you for joining the course. And, you can purchase this entire course, which really is valued at $200. If you go on Udemy, you'll see other marketing courses that are valued at least $200 or even more. But those are generic. They don't speak specifically to the wedding industry, which is what I'm doing here, which is more specific to what we need, because marketing, as I already showed you, weddings is completely different from marketing clothes. So, you can purchase this course today for $19. I really encourage you to take advantage of this. Do it now, because it will never, ever, 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 ever be this low again. This course is $200. It's 3 hours of content. You can only imagine how long it took me to record it, and then how many years of experience is in this. So you definitely want to take advantage of this now, and I encourage you to take advantage of it before we even end the webinar. That said, it took me exactly 31 minutes. So I made it on time, but this is where you can purchase the course, www.udemy.com/marketingyourweddingbusiness. Please sign up right now. It's going back up to $199 when this webinar ends. So that said, I'm going to open it up for questions. I already see a few questions coming in, which I'm going to answer, but I'm going to answer these questions, but I'm going to keep this rate going for the next 10 minutes. So we're going to stay on for 10 minutes at the very most. I'll answer your questions while you guys go on and purchase this marketing class. So number one, I have a question from Michelle. How do you have virtual real estate when you do not have a lot of experience? If you're just starting out, you may not have pictures of your work. That's an excellent question. The truth is that I go into, I actually have a whole module going over this, specifically as I'm going through the Wix demo of what you can do instead. But I'm just going to breeze over this. Even if you don't have pictures of your work, there are still pictures that you can use. You can use stock photos. I wouldn't recommend using stock photos of design. Say if you are a designer, I would just use stock photos of brides on your website in a few places. And you can also have a very simple website. And the funny thing is that the Wix demo that I have on Udemy is tailored to someone who's just starting a business and doesn't have a lot of content. But I show you how you can just have a very straightforward website. I mean, the truth about a website is that you don't need like a 20-page website. You don't even need a 5-page website. You just need a straightforward website that talks about your vision, what you believe, and what it is that you bring to the table. And that can be done in a homepage, a blog page, which would be really good, and maybe a weddings page if you want to go specifically into what you believe about weddings. Like those are really, you can have just that and build on that as time goes on. Now that said, depending on what it is you're trying to do, you may, let's say you're a designer, it may be time for you to invest time into doing a styled shoot. And a styled shoot can be something you collaborate with photographers to, you know, say, hey, you know, I need to have a big styled shoot, get a couple people to model for you, make a sample bouquet, do a sample tablescape, and it's going to cost you a little bit of money, but again, you may be able to get a photographer to do it for you for free, free models, a free place, you know, get a linen, do a mock tablescape to show what you can do. Because again, you do have to get visual. And once those pictures come out, you can use that on your website. You don't have to wait for that to start on your website, because a lot of times I find that people are just always waiting for something. I know people who are waiting for a logo to be done to start their business. You don't even need a logo to start a business because people are not buying your logo. So whatever, just do not wait, just get started now. You can at least finish your website and then just plug in the pictures later when it's ready. But you know, that's one way that you can get started. You know, again, the Udemy course is pretty much tailored exactly to the situation about how to get started and you know, with marketing your business. Another thing that I would recommend is, instead of maybe having a formal styled shoot all the time, just here and there do little centerpieces, take lots of pictures of them and share them on social media. Because what that means is that over time, you're continuing to show people that this is what I do. I do flowers. I do flowers. Keep showing unique things, different things, small, unique arrangements, and say, oh, imagine this at your wedding, you know, and really advertise that, really put yourself out there. Doing that would really help you a lot. You don't have to have experience first. You need to show what you can do first. And so that's something I would definitely put out there. Now, again, if anyone else has questions, please put it in the comments box, and I'll get right back to you. I have a bunch of questions here already, but you know, I just want to send that reminder. So I have another one that says, does the class provide step-by-step instructions or high-level theory? I've taken a lot of online classes that are focused on theory, but they don't tell me exactly what to do. Okay. This class is all what to do. There's almost no theory. There's a little bit of theory towards the beginning but it's important for you to come up with your own marketing message. Like I mentioned, you can't be cookie cutter, otherwise you're not going to stand out. So there is a little bit of that, but even that is very specific on how to define your market. You know, for example, I talk about maybe your market should be, like my market right now is African weddings in the DC area. I do design, and most of the design I do, funny enough, is not very African. It's very, you know, plush, flowers, lots of colors and things like that. But people trust me because, generally speaking, Africans have huge weddings, you know, 400 people, even more. I've done a wedding once at 700, and they know I can handle it. So even though that's one small minor detail, that's one thing that makes people trust me, right? So having that niche market is so important. So we talk about that, but we also talk about exact specifics. Like I mentioned, we have a specific demo on Instagram, specific on Facebook, specific on Instagram. I give you specific hashtags to look into. I give you specifics on lots of things. It really is a step-by-step. And every single homework assignment gives you exact step-by-steps on what apps to download in order to create your images, what to do in order to, what types of photos to take behind the scenes when you're capturing content to share later. And there's just so much more. So really, I really give you, you know, a whole lot of details top to bottom on exactly what to do. That is the whole purpose of this course. It's not theory. That said, I have 3 more minutes and I have a couple more questions. What about Pinterest and Twitter? You talked a lot about Instagram, but what about those? Okay, the thing about Pinterest is that, again, a lot of people use Pinterest to build vision boards. Pinterest is great if you're selling an online product because people can click on it and then purchase the product. But generally speaking, as a florist in, say, Sydney, I know we have a florist in Sydney right now. Let's say I'm a bride in the DC area and I see your flowers in Sydney and I love it and I share it to my pin board. And then I say, oh, I wonder who made it. And I click on it and I see, oh, someone in Sydney made these flowers. Chances are I'm not going to fly the florist from Sydney out to do my wedding flowers. Chances are I'm going to take that picture and give it to a local florist and ask them if they can replicate it for my wedding. That's the challenge with Pinterest when it comes to wedding advertising. If you can invest a whole lot of time, but the return, the way that the traffic moves on Pinterest is it's a lot less local. Like people tend to just pin whatever they like. It's people don't really follow local vendors. It's more about content that they like and then collecting it in one place. So it's not something that and Pinterest can be extremely time consuming. So again, with being effective, you want to effectively use tools that are really going to generate the return. And Pinterest is likely not going to generate much of a return, but it's going to take a lot of your time. Not that you won't ever find a bride on there, but that's why I don't recommend that, at least not up front. And then Twitter actually can be very good as well, but because Twitter runs very similarly to Instagram, the big difference with that is that you're limited to 160 characters, which really changes things, right? A lot of you joined this webinar today, for instance, because you saw that I was able to articulate a full story behind what I'm going to teach you today. I wasn't bound by 160 characters. I could tell you a whole story and then also add hashtags. Same thing even with a bride. If you're a photographer, talking about how beautiful the bride was and how radiant she was and how she couldn't wait to walk down the aisle and how you were able to capture all that in one image, believe it or not, that's really you selling your work so amazingly when you can tell that story. And you can't really do that as well on Twitter because the storylines are so short. Twitter also tends to be a place where people go for information and not necessarily photo inspiration. But when people want photo inspiration, they go to Instagram, which is why I focus on that a little bit more as well. So I hope hopefully that helps you understand why I focus on what I do. We are basically out of time, but I am going to answer one more question. Okay, so does the class allow me to follow up with questions? Yes, it does. There's a messaging module, and there's really not even any time limit on that. That's the amazing thing. You can ask me questions in a year from now if you come up with one. And if it's relevant to the class, I'll absolutely answer it. And, you know, I have one more question. How much is the class if I don't buy it today? Okay, the class is $199. That's the class. If you don't buy it, if you buy it today, it will be $19. If you buy it after today, it will be $199. And again, the URL is on the screen: udemy.com/marketing-your-wedding-business. The call ends in 1 minute. Thank you everyone for joining. If I didn't get to your question, I apologize. I will answer it after the webinar. And let's say you just thought of a question right now as I'm ending, please feel free to still leave it in that chat box. I will reply to you with an email and answer your question. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for joining. It was really a blast having you on the call. It was a blast answering your questions, and I really hope to see you on my Udemy class. That said, since you're taking advantage of my discount, I really want to ask all of you to please leave me a review once you take the Udemy class. It's really important for marketing. You'll learn in your businesses how important reviews are. So if you could leave me a review, that would be a super big help, and that would be more than worth, you know, the $180 that you're saving right there to me, honestly. So thank you so much. Please take advantage of the first time, you know, the early bird discount I had for $19. And with that, have an awesome rest of your day and have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much.